Well, hey, welcome to the X podcast. This is take 3. It is a fun day so far, and I'm here with my friend Tim. Feels weird to call you that. How are you doing?
Why is it take 3?
I don't know.
Why would you tell anybody that?
You were being so goofy in the first.
I was,
days.
or you were?
I may have been. Am I still tan? You said last week.
Are you trying to flex again?
I'm not.
Yes,
trying to
you
flex
are.
Again, but can you tell that I've been doing extensions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Try some extensions.
How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
From 1 to 10, how's your soul?
Oh, I'd say an 8.
Say an 8.
Yeah,
wow.
is that good?
What's the secret?
What's the
What's
secret?
the secret to your soul and your skin?
I think consistency.
Consistency.
In both the tanning bed and for my soul.
Wow. Are you in the tanning bed?
No, I haven't been in a little bit.
It's
No.
amazing.
I have gone before. Like a lot of times
Yeah.
we will go right before vacation to try to get some type of a tan.
Yeah, you said you
So
only
I
go
did-
like once a month.
Yeah, no, like once a week.
Okay,
No,
once a
we
week, okay.
did. I did a little bit right before we went to Florida in February.
Do I still have that African bronze?
Mm-hmm. Yep. You
Okay.
look like you're from Africa.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Straight out of South Africa.
Straight out of South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm still getting back in the swing of the time zone, it feels like. I don't know why, but a lot is going on in the world. A lot's going on.
There's a lot going on in the world, but no one seems to care.
No one seems to care because now all the people can think about
Here. Is that?
is the
For those on video, that was me slapping him.
slap heard around the world.
The slap heard around the world. The slap that changed the world.
The slap that changed the world. Of course, we are talking about, if you have not been following everything going on, we were talking about Elon Musk and Vladimir Putin.
Yeah.
And Elon got his one-on-one fight. He'd been asking for it. No, we were talking about Will Smith and Chris Rock.
Oscars.
Sunday night, we were not watching the
No,
Oscars.
no.
And Zach texted us and
I
said,
really couldn't care less.
yeah.
That's
So
what
many
I-
people said
I
they literally didn't even know.
Yeah, I couldn't care less until Zach, who's been on the show a few times, like is blowing our phone up immediately. Did you see that?
Yeah, he's like, are you guys watching the Oscars?
Did you guys
Like,
no,
No.
we're not. And so he then started sending us tweet videos.
I thought
of
he was
it.
exaggerating, or it was a joke, or it was part of it. Which
No.
some people, by the way, Lydia,
Yeah, our
who's on the
producer,
team, our producer,
She's a little bit of a
she believes
conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, she believes it was not real. So let us know. Email
Right,
us.
Lydia? You
that
think it was
right?
real or no? Think it was real?
Nod the camera twice if you think it was fake.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. She thinks it was fake. That was
She
her.
thinks it's fake.
That's
Okay.
her way.
Okay. Do you think it's fake?
No.
I don't think it was fake.
No.
I think Lydia hasn't watched it.
I actually was.
It didn't make
kind
either
of
of them look good.
I was kind of I don't know how I should say this because I feel like people are so all over the board on this, and it's kind of funny and
Also kind
it's
of
also
annoying.
and okay, but I was kind of this sounds really bad depending on how you take all this. I take this whole thing with a little bit of humor. I know it's not funny and violence isn't the answer. Okay, all of that. Let's get that out of the way. But you can't tell me for a second that when you saw that you didn't internally go, oh, and you didn't like watch it over and over again
Oh, people
like I did.
I watched it about 5 times in a row.
At least.
I couldn't believe it.
And I actually kind of noticed something because I'd finished about a month ago Will's book, and he had trained for Ali for that movie. I kind of noticed, if you notice his form when he hit him like this, he had his left hand up like he was like he had some form to, and it was open hand.
You were admiring his form.
Well, it was open hand, so that was interesting.
So-
I guess it was good that he didn't close his fist. That would have been.
Let's talk about it. Part of me doesn't want to. We were just talking with Trey offline about how, in a way, I feel like it's important. I think there's important things in this cultural moment to bring out, and one of the things that people do appreciate is that we will dive into what's going on.
Yeah.
In a way, though, I'm doing right now what has annoyed me that I've watched other people do all week, because
Everybody has to have an opinion.
God bless your soul that's not been on social media.
Yeah.
But I've not seen anything on social media blow up and into memes, serious diatribes and analyses.
Oh, gosh.
More in the last, honestly, couple years, even with everything going on with COVID, than this right now.
Yeah.
Like, this has been insane. So I don't know what annoys me more. I got a DM from somebody that it was not to pick on Mighty Pursuit, whatever Mighty Pursuit is, a Christian thing, where they did this real big analysis and they had scripture verses about Ephesians 4, don't let the sun go down your anger, and they were like, this makes me not want to be a Christian.
Oh my gosh.
So that or the constant memes, which I do think, I mean, there is some humor. I think there is some lightheartedness in it. At the same time, it's also kind of sad. So I don't love that things that are really going on in people's lives are immediately made into memes 24/7. That kind of annoys me. But I don't know if that's more annoying than the people that are like, as if people are waiting with bated breath on their opinion. Okay, guys, here's my thoughts. I don't know what annoys me more with the whole vast array of people's responses right now, but here we are.
Well, with that said,
let's talk
what's
about
your
it.
thoughts? I actually don't have a lot of thoughts of the incident. I mean, it was just...
And how narcissistic that people have such deep, think they have a right to...
I think people ask, what do you think? Well, it was entertaining. I don't think it was meant to be. It was watching somebody who, in the heat of a moment, lost his cool. I think we could all say, I think he would agree, and he's come out and say, he lost his cool. I mean, on national TV in a moment walked up. I imagine he had no idea what he was going to do. He was just so mad. He almost like ran to the problem. And then when he got there, if you watch it, it looks like Chris Rock's kind of like, what are you going to say or do? You know what I mean? Almost like turned his head like that. And so I don't know if that's what caused him to do it or not, but I don't know if he came out and said, but it was just one of those moments that was just like, ew, that's pretty bad taste, moment. But then I think it's what I find kind of even more fascinating is more of the cultural reaction to the moment. To me, if anything to talk about, that's it. Because I've seen a few articles. What's been funny is like Apple News. I get those, in my email every single day, and the number one headline, the big, topic has been Will Smith. Will Smith could be, is being investigated by the Academy. Who cares? Whatever, right? Yeah. No one cares about this stuff.
What's the Academy going to do?
I don't know. Well, they said they could take away his Oscar.
Which, by the way, I told you, they did just show that one of King Richard's, from did you see the movie?
No, I did not see it. I want to see it.
Venus and Selena. Oh my gosh, it's an amazing movie.
Yeah.
It was Serena, not Selena. Selena.
Never mind.
Yes.
Yeah, that was sad. Tragic.
That was sad. But anyways, one of King Richard Williams' his estranged daughter, is calling for Will to be stripped from the Oscars.
Yeah.
Pretty big. And you have, like you said, there's just so much. There's so much varied opinion and very passionate opinion on either side. To me, my first gut level reaction was, holy smokes. And that's why I watched it 5 times. I don't know if that's healthy or just like...
Oh, I did.
It's like watching a car wreck. You're like, I can't not watch this.
Yeah.
But my next...
And the regular broadcast, I guess, blanked out what he said. Or all of them said about Australia, and Japanese did not. So you got to hear the whole thing.
But honestly, my next reaction was just, I just thought it was kind of sad on both sides. Like, I mean, if I'm going to be arrogant enough I heard somebody the other day, they were talking about this situation, and not that we're not supposed to make moral judgments and decisions and have observations on society, but I just think it's so easy for us to treat celebrities, to dehumanize them. Like, I think the poor can be dehumanized. I also think the rich can be dehumanized. And so they are real human beings. They're going through things. We get to catch them in their best moments and their worst moments.
Yeah.
That's
the hard part about being famous, right?
That's the hard part. But I watched, and I honestly just thought it just kind of made me sad for both of them. Because I'm like, Chris Rock, this guy is a comedian. This is what he does. I'm sure he wasn't expecting this.
And he does this all the time at the expense of people. I mean, that's what you get with Chris Rock.
Right. And honestly, I think it's well said by a lot of people. Props to him and how he maintained his composure. He was definitely shaken.
Yeah, he did not finish the rest of that one.
The rest of this, but he didn't retaliate. He didn't respond. It seems like he's walked it out as best he can. And then
he's also not pressing charges.
And he's not pressing charges. Will Smith, I mean, was obviously the aggressor, but it just makes you sad for him because obviously, when you pull in front of somebody in traffic and they go ballistic and start flipping you off and go crazy and even the horrible situations where they start chasing somebody, and that person, that anger didn't start when they were in the car.
Right.
That's connected to something. And obviously there's
So
something.
are you psychoanalyzing Will right now? It sounds
I'm
like
not. I'm not excusing, and I'm not trying to
Right.
over psychoanalyze, but I am saying like, obviously something emotionally triggered him.
Yeah.
Obviously, this, and then you could tell from when he came back to his acceptance speech.
Yeah, it was
that
pretty emotional.
there's a lot of emotion there. He's still trying to process, and I have this book here. This is Will's book that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Read it back in late fall, early winter, and the truth is, this is one of the things we always talk about: was empathy. When you, I don't know Will obviously on a personal level, but the deeper you go into someone's biography, the more it creates a bridge of empathy. That's true when you're watching that point of view, even of a villain in a movie or a TV show. The more that you get in someone's world and get to hear the vulnerabilities that they process, get to know some of their story, the more it creates empathy for when you see those moments. You're like, okay, that was a low moment. There's no excusing it, but I just felt sad for both of them, and then annoyed at the world's over obsession and reaction.
It has been kind of interesting. Just,
It has.
I mean, hearing what even celebrities coming out and chiming in, and I mean that's what people do. I mean, they just
Yeah.
like,
And then Jim Carrey
yeah,
said that if he, I've never seen him attack anybody, but Jim Carrey came on and said
He thought
that if he were him, if he were Chris Rock, he said he would come out and sue him for
$200 million.
It's crazy.
Yeah, that's. I feel like it's a little bit extreme. Like
Yeah,
the idea.
a little extreme.
I heard someone else say it once too. They were like, if that had happened to anybody else, then they would have been arrested on the
Right.
spot. I'm like,
No.
no, they wouldn't.
No, they wouldn't
I know
have.
police officers that go to, they stop fights all the time when people are hitting each other, unless somebody, usually
Yeah.
they're not going to arrest them for it. But
Yeah, I feel like some of the language has been extreme.
Yeah.
Assaults on comedians. Okay, we condemn any form of violence. I don't feel like, kind of like you said, this is a Hollywood version to me of people at work doing a roast, and someone feels like they get out of line. Because there's, again, going back to, it's kind of sad on both parts. It's like it's sad for Chris Rock. At the same time, there's this whole there is a valid conversation around the weirdness that you can stand 10 feet away from someone and insult their spouse and you're not
Right.
expecting anything to happen.
I know. Yeah, that wouldn't happen in the real world.
Like that would happen in the real
Yeah.
world. Someone would come up and punch them.
Yeah.
Does that mean that's
Yeah.
technically that's assault. He slapped him. I don't know.
No such thing as verbal assault.
I mean, there's verbal
Apparently.
assault. Yeah. So,
Well, not that you're getting arrested for.
right.
It's all, I don't know. The whole thing's a little crazy to me.
Do you agree that they should have, the Academy should have not let Will come up and give a speech?
No, probably not. I don't know. I don't care. I'm one of those people too that it's like, I'm actually glad they did because I got to watch that part. Like, I will say, as terrible as this is, the Oscars were completely irrelevant to my life. I did
Right.
not care about the Oscars at all. And so after that, I flipped it on later. I didn't watch it because someone else, I think Zach, was just like, this is the greatest live TV ever. I don't know if he's quite said that, but it was like, it was like, this is like intense or something.
He's gonna hate me for saying this.
Yeah.
I told Zach later. I was like, this was like a reverse FOMO because then when we were talking about like, man, this is crazy. He goes, yeah, it was really crazy watching it live.
Oh my, bless his heart.
Zach,
Anyway, so I did flip it on. I caught like just right after he'd started his speech, and you could just hear him kind of almost excusing. It's like, just like
He bobbed and
King
weaved between penitent, but
Richards, you know.
defending.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like almost it's my job to protect and be a protector, and
Yeah.
almost kind of excused it. But you could tell he was really emotional and probably not for winning the award. And probably the sad thing is, it obviously did overshadow a lot of people that do a lot of hard work to get recognized. But
Yeah.
I just think that's Hollywood celebrating Hollywood, and I'm
Yeah.
not sure that a whole lot of regular people care that much.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I don't know.
And do you feel like, okay, me and Jesse were kind of debating about this because he's like, a lot of comedians are coming out now and they're like, okay, so there's no safety for
Yeah.
comedians. And so I told him, I was like, maybe this is the wrong way to look at it because I know not everyone in that, because the weird thing is there's multiple photos through the years of Will and Chris together. Like they're at least acquaintances,
Sure.
if not friends, at least at some point through the years. And not that everybody in that room knows each other. And again, not that violence is ever excused, but to me, there's a difference between a live comedy performance where there's hundreds, 1,000 people that are strangers removed from a high off stage. And what I consider Oscars, to me, it almost feels like a town hall kind of moment where they're in the same community, they're in the same industry. Most of them probably know each other. And so to me, I consider that different than, a random fan going and assaulting. Again, not excusing what Will did.
Right.
But this to me, because somebody's like, how could you just go up and attack a comedian? I'm like, okay, all these people know each other.
Yeah.
So it almost feels more like family drama than, comedians are in danger.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I feel like I feel like this culturally. I mean, I think there's a few things when you think about this whole moment culturally. Like, I mean, if we were to remove all the pomp and circumstances, we were to remove the people's names. This was one guy who slapped another guy because he made a comment about his wife.
Right.
Like, where in the world is this making headlines? This happens every single night in probably bars and clubs around America.
Yeah.
Does not make so. The reason why this makes headlines and is still making headlines, we're days after it, and it's still being talked about on podcasts like this and other stupid shows. Why in the world are we talking about this? But I think it's more about the
I'm
culture.
sitting in the seat of hypocrisy.
Yeah, there you are. It's more like the cultural response that I find, like the fact that we are so fascinated with Hollywood characters.
Yeah.
Because they are Hollywood characters. We're so fascinated with them that it really becomes like, and then and I think this is what I see, and it happens all the time, it's just massive overreaction.
Yes.
I have read some stuff where people are kind of like, well, it's just clear that Will Smith is obviously going through something really hard right now, and there's definitely is something that's going, well, he might be, but why are we reading into this?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that we need to read into this more than we, or make, say things about him or Chris Rock that we just don't know to be true. Like at the end of the day, it's, Will Smith lost his control, lost temper, and he went and he did something that he massively regrets.
Yeah.
And, obviously.
And haven't we all?
Yeah, haven't we all? The problem is it's not captured on film and it won't be replayed and you won't be remembered for it, but he probably will be.
Yeah.
These are those things you're going to be remembered for, and I think it's sad when you get such a massive overreaction that people are like cancel. People are, you know what I mean? Like to me, this is kind of what is a little bit wrong with this cancel culture and this other thing is that you do one thing wrong and
you're done.
You're done.
Yeah,
you do one thing wrong and you take this away or do that, and it's like
talk about the Bill Maher thing because I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, Bill Maher it's fascinating to see him chime in, and he said that the Will Smith thing basically models what you see of Twitter mob reactions.
Of cancel culture.
Of cancel culture, but he said it was hypocritical.
Right.
It's kind of fascinating. He said when you watched it happen and he smacks Chris Rock, but before that, when he told the joke, you see Will Smith over there laughing.
Right.
A little bit. He's laughing. Now, again, you got cameras on you, they're doing, so maybe you kind of just, it's funny, I'm really mad at you. Could be, or it could have been, that's funny. Oh, she's mad. I'm mad. That's offensive. And so Bill Maher just said, that just tends to be what has happened in the climate we're in with cancel culture, is when something happens privately, people think, this is funny. And then all of a sudden someone says, that's offensive. And they go, oh, I didn't realize. That is offensive. I'm so angry. We should cancel them. He just says disingenuous.
Yeah.
And it almost kind of, to him, again, his reaction, the whole thing was, it seemed disingenuous. It seemed like he's laughing 1 second, and then next thing when some people are, it's like, I should be mad and offended. I better go do something. And then goes up and, slaps him, and then comes back, and he's all emotional. And so it's, I don't know. Another thing that I thought that was really odd. Again, I want to say there's like one moment that it caused me to, like, I'm watching this and I understand it's Oscars and everybody that gets up there and they give their acceptance speeches, most of them to me are just, this sounds bad. They just feel like garbage. Yeah. They feel like I've got to get up and say something. Yeah. I got to say something really important. Right. I can't just say thank you for this award. Incredible team of people. We did something. It was awesome to do. But no, it's everything's that turns into an agenda. Everything turns. But there was this one moment Will Smith was giving this, and then I saw later that it came out. Denzel Washington came over to him at the break, And there was someone else I can't remember, but Denzel Washington came over and grabbed him, walked him off, and was like talking and relaxing, whatever. But he made a comment. Will Smith did in his acceptance speech about Denzel Washington, and he said, "Yeah, like Denzel say to you, you know, that's the devil will try to take you out when you're at your very best," or something along those lines.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, what just happened? Did he just say that Will Smith going up and smacking this guy because he made a comment about his wife is comparable to this? See, the devil will come and try to attack you and will try to get you to do the wrong thing when you are at the pinnacle of success. So in other words, you're about to win this award, and here the devil was coming, and I was like, as a person who comes from a faith context, let me just say, as much as I love Denzel Washington as an actor, and I know and I know how he stands, and I've heard him talk about his faith and all that stuff, I would hit the massive pause button right there, and I would say, no, I don't know if the devil's attacking him because he's at the pinnacle of success right now.
Right.
Like you said, I think the reaction or something like that in that moment is probably spillover from other things that have been in your life for a long time.
Yeah.
And so I just thought it was odd. It was just odd. The whole thing just felt really odd to me.
Speaking of context, supposedly, was it 2016, Chris Rock made the first comment about Will's wife.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, and a whole other conversation, too, that, people have started that I'm sure probably has merit to it is how disproportionate hypocritical the whole conversation is around body shaming.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you can't talk about people's weight, but you can talk about their height or their hair.
Yeah.
Of course, all my cousins.
Wow.
They're so stupid.
Is there a reason you're bringing this up?
My hair? What's wrong with my hair?
No, I mean, you just
I'm not like 6'5", but because my cousins, actually one of the ones that was on here.
Oh, yeah.
They all went bald in their like mid-20s, and he's so stupid. They did this whole thing of finally somebody standing up for us and the bald shaming that we've had to. But then I have another cousin that actually talked and said in all seriousness, he said, when he started losing his hair, like it was a deep source of insecurity.
Oh, yeah.
And people would call him names.
Yeah.
But somehow that's accepted.
Yeah.
And so for her,
I do think it's a very weird culture that they have in Hollywood at performance shows and other things.
Yeah.
Where they get comedians to run it, which I understand. Let's face it. Watching the Oscars, I mean, I pretty much would almost rather just pull my hair out and poke my eyes with needles.
Yeah.
I mean, who really wants to hear about some of these movies and some of these things that you've never even heard about, get these awards of these people you've never heard about, and listen to them get up there and name off people you've never heard about that everybody in the room might care about, but nobody else cares about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At least they don't know them. I shouldn't say they don't care about them, but they don't know them. And so I'm like, I just have no desire. The only award shows that I sometimes like to watch, I think, would be probably like not the Grammys. Wait, yeah, Grammys. Is that music? You'll see how much I follow these. Or like the American Music Awards, only because they have performances with bands and things. And so I sometimes like to listen to live performances.
You always watch the CMAs.
Stop. What are you saying?
CMAs.
I watch them every once in a while. Country Music Awards.
Yeah. Oh, I was making a joke.
Christian Music
Awards.
Country. No, I watch it every once in a while. I like the musical award shows only for the performances.
Yeah.
I don't really care who wins what. It doesn't affect my life.
Right.
But and so but it is one thought I did have is. It is interesting to me that it is acceptable for these hosts to get up there and basically put everybody and anybody in the room on blast.
Yep.
Like everybody's everybody's fair game. I agree. I don't know why it's fair game. I think it's odd. I think they're just trying to figure out how to do something funny in a room full of people, which I do like the fact that most of the time everybody in that community will make fun of themselves because they do see themselves quite differently than the rest of the world does. Yeah. And so when you hear them make fun of it, usually what that is a comedian trying to bring to the conversation, hey, by the way, this is how the rest of the world sees you guys.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's usually, but you can cross the line. Okay, so and obviously he crossed the line with Will or Jada or whatever.
So here's maybe one of my deepest disagreements, pet peeves with the reaction. And this is not just centralized to this scenario, but you hear this a lot. And it is, to me, the unfair generalizations and demonizations of Hollywood. I was watching someone on CNN do reactions to this. And she literally made the statement. She said, but when they are criticizing or insulting people in that room, they're all the rich and famous, so they can take it.
Yeah, I don't.
They said that in passing, and I just thought to
don't get
myself,
that.
see, that's the problem. See, I think there's
Yeah.
a double standard because
Yeah.
are there a lot of problems in Hollywood in general? Are there broken people in Hollywood just like there's broken people in any geographic or geopolitical or economic or societal place? Absolutely. But they're still human beings.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we even teach in a faith context is it doesn't matter how much success you have externally, that actually does. There's no amount of success that can take away insecurity. There's no amount of success that can fill the void in your soul. And I think it is this weird irony, and I don't think people realize they do it, but it bothers me because I think it's a hypocrisy. So many times, especially from the Christian standpoint, you'll hear Christians say, well, you know, Hollywood's proof that all the money in the world can't make you happy. They'll say that, but then they'll follow up with this impression that, but you can make fun of Hollywood all you want and demonize them all they want. Why? Well, after all, they're rich and famous. They can take it. So which is it? Is it that money can't make you happy, or are they fair game to demonize and make memes about because they're rich and famous, and so somehow that makes them below human, and you can just say whatever you want to about them?
Right.
Like either, I mean, I'm speaking as a faith person. Either every single person at that awards show is a human being that was made in the image of God that Jesus died for, or they're not. And I just think there's this weird thing where we feel like, and this is where I was debating with someone upstairs. They're like, because I've seen these articles that talk about, well, Hollywood's just so out of touch. Well, I'm sure the more and more that you get isolated, I'm sure some of them are isolated by their wealth. I'm sure a lot of them are isolated. Any of us can get out of touch. I'm out of touch compared to what a lot of people in third world countries live in. But I just feel like, I mean, when I hear that, I'm just like, that just seems like such an easy critique for me. Because I agree with what you said earlier. I mean, I'm sure there's some ways they're out of touch. I also think, again, that someone insulted someone's spouse 10 feet away.
It doesn't matter.
They responded in a way that they now regret. And those are two human beings that had two human moments.
Yeah.
And now they're trying to make it right.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much Hollywood has to do with it. And it also bothers me because I'm just going to go on. Christians, I've seen so many posts that are like, see, this is that thing about, this is just another confirmation of evil Hollywood and how crazy they are and Will Smith. And I'm not going to get controversial, but part of me wants to be like, okay, I could point out political leaders that actually claim to be Christians who've done far worse that you have gone out of your way to excuse and justify. And here's Will Smith, who doesn't claim to be a Christian. He's not a leader in any kind of way. He's just an actor. But you're going to crucify him and hold him to standards that you would never hold another. You see what I'm saying? Like, to me, I'm just like, either it reminds me of, we talk a lot about another podcast we follow, Erwin and Aaron McManus. And Erwin McManus, he's a battle ready. Erwin, he's a pastor in L.A. I'll never forget hearing him talk about in a message a few years ago that a famous politician came over to his house and started using this language that to him, unfortunately, is quite normal in Christian circles. He just kept talking about them. He goes, I'm so glad you're out here in Hollywood that because we just got to be careful and hold our own against them. And he kept saying them.
Yeah.
And finally, Erwin interrupted, said, I'm so sorry, you keep saying them. Who's them? He's like, like Hollywood and all their, And he said he made it really awkward. And he said, I don't mean to make you feel uncomfortable, but I just need to be honest with you. I'm them. and they're not my enemy. I'm here to serve them. And I'm here to love them. And I just love that.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, can we stop with all the easy target generalizations, demonizations of Hollywood? Hollywood is not a monolith. It's made of a ton of different types of men and women, some of them believers, some conservatives, some liberal, and they're struggling with their brokenness just like anybody else. And I heard Donald Miller say one time, he said, to me, it's really easy. If you're going to love and save people, they can't also simultaneously be your enemy. So if our goal as believers is to win over the world and love the world, then we got to stop speaking in us versus them language and stop speaking in a language that implies that they're the enemy and belittling them and shaming them and trying to catch them in their worst moments so we can crucify them. And we need to realize everybody in the scenarios that we love to dissect are human beings trying to walk out their own journey.
But is it okay if Chris Rock does it? To Will Smith, that's what I meant.
What do you mean?
You said we need to be careful that we don't do that and criticize this. I said, but it's okay if Chris Rock does it. I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. It's just easy to forget they're not human.
Yeah.
And I think, in all of these scenarios I can't imagine what it'd be like to be under the pressure of having everybody in the world, and you have just gone not only viral, but you are also trending, and everybody has something to say.
Yeah.
About your worst moment. And I know this. I would not want to be remembered, or I would not want to have things go viral for my worst moment.
No.
And I think that's the unfortunate challenge for when you are in a seat that is famous.
Yeah.
When you're in there. But I really like Will Smith from what I know of him. Don't know him personally, but
too.
I've always loved
This book
his
made me
movies.
really appreciate him.
I loved his autobiography. I thought it was fast, especially as somebody who grew up like around the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air time frame, and I remember that show. And so going back and listening to it, I also think it gives you a little bit of, like you said earlier, not just empathy, but a perspective. Like, I mean, one of the things that Will talks about in there is that when he went through, he went through some difficult things. He went through a season where he was fighting anybody and everybody he would see.
Yeah.
He went through a season where he would just literally every day, every night he would get, and this was after he started kind of getting well known in the rap scene and doing all kinds of other stuff in hip hop. He was like, I get in fights this every night. We go to a club, we go to something, and it would always end with me getting in a fight. And Charlie, his big bodyguard, would always, whatever. And so it was fascinating just hearing the story of someone's life and the challenges, and there's a lot of stuff that he said that I related to in his story that
like when you kicked off your rap career.
I mean, I didn't get as near many fights though. But I just think he does say some pretty fascinating things in his autobiography about, he makes one point, which is he was at the very top of the world. Biggest movie show, biggest movie celebrity, highest paid, more number one box office hits than anybody else in a row. I mean, everything that you could imagine or dream to have in that kind of career, he's had it, and yet he would still talk about when he was miserable. And like his quest to kind of discover who he really is. And I don't know where he is spiritually. His grandmother, devoted follower of Jesus. You can tell.
Oh, yeah.
And he's had some experiences there, and he's had some spiritual moments with taking, some going to Africa and taking some, I forget what it's called, but ayahuasca plant or something, and having these, kind of spiritual, mystical type of experiences.
It's really interesting having read Trevor Noah's autobiography, because both him and Trevor Noah grew up in those like Pentecostal black churches growing up, and still have like parts of that they go back to. Yeah, it's really interesting.
So I mean, it is fascinating hearing his story. So you feel like in a moment like that, I think the one thing it does help you do is kind of see that person as a person, who they are, and not just that celebrity from far away. That is,
speaking of that, so I did want to read just the one little part.
Just wanted to read a chapter. Just a chapter.
So this is, I'm not trying to psychoanalyze, but this is going to sound very psychoanalytical. But Rich Villodas, a leader in New York, he tweeted something about, it was a Richard Rohr quote, where Richard Rohr said, pain that isn't transformed is transferred. And this, again, I'm not even going to pretend that what I'm about to say is what's happened, but I say this because if it is what happened with Will, I'm capable of this potential, and every person listening and watching is capable of the potential of the wounds in my past, even decades later, surfacing in moments that I look back and regret. Because, and you remember in chapter 1, what's crazy is Will Smith, in the very first chapter, talks about the first time he watched his mom be beaten by his dad. And then listen to the very end. He basically talks about how when he saw it, he froze.
Didn't defend her.
He didn't defend her.
And that stuck with him for the rest of his life.
And here's what he said at the end. I'm going to read two things real quick. He says, that night in that bedroom, at only 9 years old, watching the destruction of my family as my mother collapsed to the floor, in that moment I decided, I made a silent promise to my mother, to my family, to myself. one day I would be in charge, and this would never, ever happen again.
Mm-hmm.
So he made an inner vow that would never. One of the things you learn in freedom is the breaking of inner vows. All of us, in response to the trauma, in response to everything we're going through, try to make inner vows. He made an inner vow that will never ever happen again. And then someone else, I guess, was thinking about this. This is what Ken Tanner said, and he's quoting this first part from the book, and I'm going to tell you what he said about it. This is from Will Smith's book. Ken Tanner quotes this. When I was 9 years old, I watched my father punch my mother in the side of the head so hard that she collapsed. I saw her spit blood. Within everything that I have done since then, the awards and accolades, the spotlights and the attention, the characters and the laughs, there has been a subtle string of apologies to my mother for my inaction that day, for failing her in that moment, for failing to stand up to my father, for being a coward.
Yeah. I remember
And then Ken Tanner goes on to say, Smith wrote that his father once beat his mother until she collapsed on the ground. And in his deeply emotional analysis of the incident, he reflects on the decision to intervene. And this is the last quote from Will Smith. He says, what you have come to understand is Will Smith, the alien annihilating MC, the bigger-than-life movie star, is largely a construction, a carefully crafted and honed character designed to protect myself, to hide myself from the world, ... to hide the coward. So you know what?
It makes you wonder. I mean, that's his response was defend.
And if nothing else, if there is a takeaway to all of us that are looking into something that really is none of our business, it's at least Will Smith has the probably more self-awareness than a lot of us Christians to look back and look at the false selves. I'm reading Ian Cron's new book on the Enneagram right now. It's messing me up. And they're talking about the stories we live, but the false narratives we create, the false stories we live out of the wounds that aren't healed. And that literally the inner lie he believed from that day forward is I'm a coward. And here is the false image. Here's the false self. Here's the false narrative I've got to put on for the rest of my life. Oh, and by the way, I'm making an inner vow that the coward I was not to defend my mother, that'll never, ever happen again.
Yeah.
So then decades later, you're on national TV. And it's not your mother this time, it's your wife, and someone's attacking her. And I mean, again, I'm not in his mind. I'm not going to pretend to know. But if nothing else, just even the awareness and the context of that, I hope gives me empathy for him and helps me to search my own self and say, hey, I know I still have inner wounds. I still have things I need to deal with. I still have lies that need to be replaced with truth. I still have a false self that needs to be replaced with a true redeemed self, and I think we all do.
I think it's true. I forgot about that part in there. I mean, until you said it, and I was like, oh, I remember that because it was it was such a moment for him that probably defined or shaped a little bit of who he became. And so, I mean, it's very possible that's part of why he reacted. I think too, just a takeaway. One of the things that I think, we can look at this as a kind of a, one of those just cultural moments where it'll blow up and it'll eventually die down and we'll kind of all remember. Do you remember when you saw the slap? Yeah, But I think sometimes I like to look at these moments if I can and just go, okay, what can I learn from somebody else's regret?
Yeah.
And so when I look at this, because Will Smith regrets it, he has said that he's like, I don't condone violence. I don't all this stuff, which, which I think is, the right things to say. But I also look at the fallout. I look at the, the back lash, the scrutiny, all these other things, and it just reminds me. What do I see? It is really important that you learn to think first before you react. And I think what we witnessed was somebody who just reacted, maybe shaped by some of those things that you mentioned, that he just reacted, is defending whatever, and you know what I mean, and did all that would love to have that moment back. And would love to say, I mean, could have handled it different ways. Like I saw someone that said, it's like you could have, and people do this all the time in work, says you could have shouted something from your seat, you could have taken to Twitter, you could have said whatever, but in that moment, what he did, it was so. It was a reaction moment. First, he reacted out of anger first, and then regretted it. And so when I look at that, I just kind of want to be a great reminder that
Yeah.
when I feel that thing inside of me, because I think we all know what that feels like. You know, when your heart starts to pound and you feel something coming over you and you're like starting to lose control. It's that thing that's, you know, it's anger, rage that is starting to consume you, and you lose your faculties. You know, you got chemical things releasing in your brain. You are thinking fight. You're thinking whatever in that moment. That's one of those moments that, how do I make sure that I don't have a moment that I'm going to regret for the rest of my life?
Yeah.
How do I make sure that I don't do something in the moment that is so that I will look back on and be embarrassed and other things? And so that to me would be like just a reminder of something for all of us. When we see somebody else walking through that, we either learn from it or we'll probably end up doing something like that.
Yep.
And so I want to learn from somebody else's mistakes, and I'm sure Will does regret it. I mean, that's you could tell he was emotionally affected by it.
Yeah.
You know, and what I feel like what they kept showing, you know, after his speech, and even before that, he was emotional. He was like, he was tearing up and crying when they cut to commercial on the very first one. They said, I was reading an article about that's when Denzel Washington came over, which I understand. He came over to console him and all that good stuff. You know, I just think that it was, it's kind of like one of those moments that reminds me of, like you said, it was his humanity that affected him.
Yeah.
That moment affected him emotionally. He was emotionally impacted. I don't think just by what he heard that made him angry. It was his response that affected him too as well. And I think that's what kind of humanized the moment.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if it's an Oscar shows. It made it feel very human.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like somebody that was just, I'm going to go up and punch somebody and you know what I mean? He was angry. You could tell what he said after that, but then he was impacted by it. And so I don't know. It's just it's again, for me, I don't feel like I have to have an opinion on everything, but I'm kind of more surprised by the cultural reaction and how big it is.
Yeah, I know.
And it just kind of makes it feel like everything is like, it's just like the smallest thing.
Meanwhile, Ukraine still burns.
Yeah, it just becomes inflammatory.
Yeah.
The smallest thing that really is not, I mean, it's bad, but it's not the biggest thing in the world. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah.
But it is like dominating the conversation and the headlines. And so I don't know. We just wanted to come talk about it, process it a little bit. Don't have anything, you know, crazy to say other than, you know, I think I don't want to end up being Will Smith one day.
Yeah.
Although, okay, so one last question for you.
Uh-oh.
Would you rather be Will Smith or Chris Rock, right? So would you rather be the guy who got smacked on national TV, or would you rather be the guy who regrets doing it?
Chris Rock.
You'd rather be the guy who got smacked.
Yeah.
Because I mean that doesn't feel good. And that's probably not fun.
Because to me, maybe it's just I inherited my mother's conscience, but nothing weighs heavier and worse than guilt. And I would rather have been smacked or punched than to, because I've been Will in different ways before in my life, and that's the worst feeling.
Yeah.
You know, having someone hurt you is a bad feeling, but to me, the pain of regret and hurting other people's worse.
Yeah. No, I would agree. I was just curious because it's an interesting predicament. Which one would you want to be? You want to be the one who got smacked around? Yeah. Or do you want to be the one who did it and you didn't get smacked around,
right,
but is now really sitting in, I want to say hot water, but is really in a you know, not only emotionally feeling it, but also who knows what the implications are, the way our culture is.
Yeah. And hopefully what Diddy said was going to happen happened.
What's that?
Puff Daddy got up there afterwards and said, man, guys, we're going to solve this at the after party.
So
hopefully that happened.
Hopefully
hopefully there can be healing. Hopefully those of us watching this can see ourselves in the story.
Yeah.
Look with
you'll be Will Smith, I'll be Chris Rock.
Okay. And honestly,
I'd be curious to other people's thoughts. So if you're watching this or listening, this is one of those ones that, I mean, it seems like everybody has a thought. I try not to take these kind of cultural moments too seriously.
Right.
We just want to sit down and kind of, we know there's a lot of really serious things going on in our world right now, but we wanted to have a little bit of a lighthearted kind of conversation about it without, you know, we're not trying to make fun of it, but let's be honest, this is not, this I don't know. It's amazing how newsworthy this is. That's what's interesting. And so I just think people are just so opinionated by this. And so I kind of find it, I mean, it's all the whole situation is a little comical. I'm not saying it's funny, this and that, but I'm just saying it's all a bit the way it's blown up. So I think it's more curious if you have thoughts and opinions. If you know, I'm just. People are all over the place, and some of the worst at responding are Christians.
They really are.
Oh my gosh! Let's not let's not over spiritualize this just a little too much. I understand it's
not to belabor the point, but there was a guy because Will, for whatever reason, he doesn't really discuss it in the book, but Will and Jade are pretty open about their open marriage, and I saw a guy. I'm gonna nicify what it said because it was pretty vulgar, but he shared. I don't even know how I'm friends with this person on Facebook. I don't even know who this person is. But they shared this post that was basically like, it was pretending to be Will, and it was like, I don't mind other men sleeping with my wife as long as they don't make fun of her. And it was like this just vulgar attack on Will Smith, and it made me so mad. So I clicked on this person's profile, and all it had was their name and underneath of Colossians 2:3 and a verse about Jesus. And I just thought to myself, wow.
Yeah.
Like
it's when a Christian is supposed to be judgmental toward the world.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean.
And then we sing songs about we want to go save the world.
I don't know. Yeah.
Anyways.
Christian subculture is pretty interesting.
So, I don't know if this helped anybody, but it was, it's like you said, it's just, there's a lot of sub-conversations to this conversation.
I think people will probably have some opinions. I'm just curious.
Right, and let us know if you agree with Lydia and you think it's fake.
Yeah, if you think this is our conspiracy theorist producer, Lydia, who's in there. She thinks it was staged. So, I don't know. If it was staged, I don't know that I'd want to be either one of them. Yeah. And I don't know what they got out of it.
Yeah. You both look kind of bad.
Yeah. Yeah, you both look kind of bad. And if Will Smith gets his Oscar stripped, I don't know. That'd be pretty not cool too. So,
I do think it's a little extreme that people are like that think he needs to be arrested.
Oh my, yeah. I don't think he should be arrested.
Yeah.
I mean, I think truth be told, if you're looking at this, if anything, Chris Rock should have turned the other cheek. Okay, I'm just kidding.
That's all for this week,
just
folks.
Bad Christian humor, like that's. I mean,
I will say Trey Kennedy's video was kind of funny.
Yeah, where he was kind of
spoofing
it. He was spoofing the moment.
He was spoofing the moment.
Yeah, but yeah.
Anyways, all right.
I got nothing. People are saying we're.
Thank you for joining us for this week of the X Podcast. And
this was a pointless podcast. Let's be honest. If you're really bored and you had nothing else to do. And you are actually still listening at this point, because I'm not sure I would be listening.
Well, hopefully
to us talk about Will Smith and Chris Rock at this point. But
if you've had a very in any conversation, if people have a very a tendency towards binary thinking, if this opened them up to think a little bit more holistically, it's always a win, right? And to create empathy, and to not make non-believers in the world the enemy. All right. And to do some soul searching. I don't know. I'm trying to reach for some things.
I don't know.
We love you. Hey, thank you for joining us for this week's podcast. Send us any comments, questions, or let us know which ones you've been enjoying lately. It's so interesting because so many people said they've enjoyed us processing through Russia and Ukraine.
Yeah.
And then I talked to somebody today that called me and I was like, oh, have you been catching up with the pod? They're like, I saw Ukraine. I was like, I'm out. And they're like, I do not want to hear about war right now. I need some levity in my life. And so maybe.
So instead of Russia and Ukraine, we decided to talk Will Smith and Chris Rock.
Yep. So maybe this one helps you. I don't know. But anyways, email us podcast@thex.church. That's podcast@thex.church. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. As always, rate, review, and like, and share it with someone that needs some, encouragement or different perspective.
We got a few good things coming up that we're going to talk about. We got some people we're going to bring on to talk about doing some hard things. And we don't know if that's going to be next week or not. It might be the week after. Might be the week after. But yeah, we've got a few I think pretty cool episodes coming up. Some stuff to talk about. So it'll be fun.
Thanks for being part of these conversations. We'll see you next week.